All right, today is October 10th. We're going to have a combined committee. Streets and Sanitation along with water and sewer. Present today are Councilman Hockett and Councilman Schuyler. We have supervisors Mark Liebrecht and Kelly Duffy, along with Public Works Director Troy Kruger present. Got a lot to cover, and we are a little bit late, so I'm going to have you guys hustle. Go ahead, Troy.
All right. We will just knock out some of the quick stuff here, water and sewer stuff. This is a bill for Elevate. I think everybody got that. So we'll submit that to Elevate, and then how that worked was Elevate, we have an agreement with Tripp County Rural Water, and we would take Elevate on as one of our customers. It's so we have like a service territory, so to speak, and they fell within that. So this is the bill for Elevate, and then Elevate will be given the option to approach council or whatever if they want to, you know, if they want to do anything with that bill. That's that. The pool. When we were budgeting, the pool we decided to go ahead and paint the pool, so that money was budgeted to do the floor of the pool. We talked about some of the structural stuff that needed to be done, the supports for the slide, for the big water slide, and the diving boards. And so I got a quote for that. The original pool cost was $47,800, and those were the numbers that we gave to council. To do to add on the structures for the diving board and the big slide would be an additional $34,875. So that is, the council wanted to hear those numbers to see if they wanted to come up with that money to do the whole project at once. We would not be able to do the whole project at once anyways. I talking to the guy with his scheduling, and he was going to try and get in and do our pool this fall, but I told him obviously I don't have the money until next year to do that project. So they're going to come in the spring, and they're already scheduled tight enough that they don't know if they probably wouldn't be able to get the pool floor and the structures done. So, but that's the additional cost for to do the structural stuff for the diving boards and the big slide. Mark's got a email correspondence here with sanitation products in Sioux Falls, and Mark, why don't you go ahead, and you've done 90% of that communicating, so you tell them what.
Okay, that came in and then give me a shout back. They did estimates on the stuff they would for sure would have to come up to 189,000, I think it was. And they said they want to get the truck over there, and it'd probably be between 100 and 150,000 to just a rough estimate on the other stuff that could go wrong. So you're talking 340, 350,000 just to go and redo this truck we got. And then the other option is the truck that we had bid out is the next step up. The reason we did that is for we can reach further. Right now we can only get a block. This other one would be able to go almost 2 blocks. But serious spots we need that. So the other one come in at 504,000, I believe it was. Or we could go with the same size that we have. You put on there also be around 350,000, that smaller one.
What's your recommendation?
Myself, I would like to see the bigger truck.
The bigger truck?
Yeah, there's spots where we can't get to the end of it. Because of where they put the manholes years ago when they developed stuff. Now we can't get to those manholes, we gotta shoot through two manholes.
Okay. And the new quote was what, 500 and?
504,000, I believe. 504, 533. And taking this truck over there to have checked out, we'll probably be without a truck for 2 to 3 months.
How much was budgeted, Mark, for next year?
We didn't. We talked about it, but it wasn't put in the budget. We thought,
So how are you proposing to pay for the repairs or the purchase?
cash on hand.
And how much cash on hand do we have in the water fund
Or in the sewer.
or in the
Red
sewer?
Osborne.
I never did. I was told it was several $100,000, which we could get it on payments for the new one. What do they call that? Source well?
Yep, yep, source.
It'd be about $100,000 a year for 5 years.
Cash on hand, if my memory serves me correct, is about 689,
That's what I was thinking.
720
Closer.
right now.
If we would borrow against it, would that count against our debt load?
Mhm.
Okay,
Everything would. like
Yeah,
that.
anytime you
except for
find.
leases, right?
No, actually, they're redoing leases, and those leases are gonna start to count against our constitutional
Okay,
debt
that's what
load
I was-
also. There has to be a buyout of $1 at the end where we own it. I don't remember without Chandra being here, the exact technicality of that lease option.
That's what Troy was kind of talking about to Ben about, the source well would be a lease, right? With the dollar buyout at the end of so many years.
Yeah, I don't know. The new laws that took effect July 1st may have changed a little bit. Chandra is up to speed on those finance laws, so. It's the idea of depleting unappropriated cash. It's not a savings account. I would be the first one to say that to council. It's not a savings account. You have to have a real need. I could put this up for discussion with full council and then they could table, but you'd probably have to be there or have been here, the both of you, to visit with council about this, either Monday or in 2 weeks. We could look at this. How long is your quote good for?
valid for 30 days.
30 days,
So this one's already off the table.
right?
Well, if we get it Monday,
I think you need to take your time.
yep, I agree. But I mean, for council discussion. What are you thinking, Joe?
Yeah, I'm brand new to this. I'm not on the water committee. This is the first I heard that we're missing, we're down on this Vector truck. I had no idea. That's $500,000. Wow, that's kind of a shocker to me, but, yeah, I say we send it to the council for full council discussion on moving forward on something like this. I don't feel comfortable making a recommendation right now. The information I have.
So it's 189, 682, 23 in repairs with up to 150,000 more, taking it to 339, 682, 23 versus 350,000 for the same size truck. To go with the longer boom to reach further, that takes that out. You're estimating $500,000. There's no quote here.
For another 100.
50.
I think it was on the original one, Jody.
Is it on the page one?
Here's the original.
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I wasn't here that day.
No.
Thank you. Troy, what's your recommendation right now? Take it to full council for discussion?
Yeah, yes. It was, yeah, it was, I mean, going into 2024, it's a tight budgeting year. We knew that. The truck got dropped. I think we need to get the truck up to, we can do a few repairs to it. There's a couple of things that need to be done to it, I think, to get it back to the truck. The truck works. I think it's something we need to plan out. It's not something we need to figure out how to take our time and figure out how to pay for it.
This would be probably in 2025 is when the production, spring of 2025.
That's when we take possession of either a new truck.
Last I heard, that's what Ben was
Okay.
saying, they're up that far out.
Do you guys have any questions on the sewer or the water? Their expense sheets there?
Looking at these two quotes, Mark, one was for 482, 488, 200. And then it looks like the same quote.
See, the first quote, they didn't have the chassis figured into that one. With the second quote with 504,000, that he added the chassis on that.
Which is $6,333 more.
I think I took off some stuff off of that, first quote that we didn't,
The first quote was higher.
yeah, that we didn't need.
That was proposal date 8/29, and then on the 9/05, it's 488,200.
Because they had some toolboxes on there behind the cab and some other stuff, some screens for the hose and that protected the splashback and stuff. We don't have that now. I took that off. That was quite a bit of a savings.
Before we, and I think we have both councilmen, everybody's saying taking it to full council, talk real quick about the need for the city of Winter to have a $500,000 Vector truck, if you would, please. The purpose and everything that it does. I don't think we understand all of it.
Well, right now, the truck's 20 years old, and
Okay.
it's showing its age. This truck we use to clean sewers, sewer plugs. We'll go into one manhole, there'll be a plug in there. That's what's backing up into people's basements, once in a while and stuff. We'll go in there with our jetter, we'll jet it out. We'll blow that plug out of the way so we can get things restored. The Vector part of it is to suck up any debris that comes down, like tree roots or whatever clogged the sewer at that time. I guess we use it for several different things. We've used it for pot only. But our main purpose, we clean our lift station with it. We gotta get down 27 feet in our lift station. We try and get as much as we can down there before we send somebody down. Troy's been down there, I've been down there. It's not a nice place to be.
It's no fun.
This equipment saves a lot of.
Something about being a rookie and it was my turn to go or something.
You're the new man, not it.
You lost the flip?
It's a long ways down there. I've been down there.
Yeah, it's a long ways. But it does stuff like that, I'm sure back in the days, it was probably scooping stuff out by hand, and this saves, you're talking human feces and stuff. It's not a pleasant place to work. But mainly, it helps us with the sewer plugs and cleaning and preventive maintenance.
It's an important piece of equipment for the city of Winter. Like Mark said, it's our one piece of equipment that we can use to assure that, to make sure that that we're not backing up into people's basements and whatnot. It happens a dozen times a year where we get called out. We have a lot of old sewer mains. We haven't got to them all yet to reline them, but we have a lot of tree roots that get in them. We have and some of the sewer mains are they're every now and then chunk will break off of the sewer main, a clay tile piece, and it'll plug up that sewer. There's a bunch of different tools that come with that truck that are available to purchase when you have a Vector truck like that. There's a cutting tool that we can put on the front for the jetting portion of it. We can cut tree roots out. We can break out, if there's a blockage with a piece of clay tile or whatever, we can get in there and we can actually bust that out. We also have a camera, and it's kind of a maintenance program that they do in winter here, and we'll go around and periodically we'll camera sewers so we can see what kind of shape they're in, and how many tree roots we have. Then kind of what the procedure is there then is we'll acid wash that sewer, put tree root killer down in there, and then we'll go back in with the jetter and we'll cut out all those roots. We had a sewer this year doing a reline project, and the roots were in there, so I honestly don't know how the sewer was still flowing, but we had to we had to take that reline off the table with the company that we were doing it with, because the tree roots were so bad in that sewer, and they just couldn't reline it the way it was. So that's one of those cases where we have to treat it with acid. We'll put Real Killer down in there, and then we'll go back in there with our truck, and we'll cut the roots out. And we have to get that sewer back to as clean as possible so that those guys can come in and do that. There's also some flat line sewers out west coming from the Ford dealership out there. And usually a couple times a year we're out there. There's a lot of sand that collects in that sewer line. And the Vector not only, so you can pull the debris that's in the sewer back, but you can also suck it up and you can totally remove it from so you put the suction part in the manhole, and then you pull back with the jetting portion, and you can actually remove all that debris and the sand and gravel and everything that's in so it's a necessity. I mean, you gotta have it. But we need, the one that we have, like I said, it's working. We do need to put a little money into that one and get us by, but we do need a plan to replace the one that we currently have.
Is this something that we can wait till the 2025 budget on and budget next year with new quotes? Or is this something, these quotes are, my whole point is these quotes are awesome. I'd love to have seen these during the budget process, that they're great now. Is it an emergency to go? That's my first question. Second question, is there any value to our old truck on trade? There's got to be some value.
If we get, operational, the way Ben talked, but without seeing it, he's seen it, but his shop hasn't seen it for quite a while, about 4 or 5 years. He's estimating between 80 and 100,000
Okay.
is what it would be worth.
That gets us in the $380,000, $400,000 ballpark.
Is that how the current condition is now, or is that with,
Yeah, with the
Current
minor
condition.
repairs and stuff.
okay,
But as far as waiting a couple of years for it, the price is just gonna keep going up.
Understand.
This one this other one he's talking about, this smaller one, he brought one last year for us to look at. Exact same one as this small one, and at that time it was 300,000. Now, a year later, it's 350,000. So if you wait 2 more years, is that 500,000 gonna be at 600?
It'll be 625. I'm telling you, it'll be 625.
But if you commit to it now, and it's not produced till, you'll get it at that price.
so time is a big factor.
What's that?
Time is a big factor.
Right, yeah. As fast as things are going up. So I couldn't believe that one went up 50,000 in just 1 year.
This truck does qualify for a source well. So there's a couple different options when you do a source well. You can pay the full amount, you can go over 5 years or 7 years or 3 years, whatever. There's payment options.
What's the interest rate on Sourcewell when we go 5 years?
I'm not gonna say, I don't know what it is. It went up. It went up a lot since the last time we bought a piece of equipment.
So Councilman Hockett and I met with the auditor's office when we did our review. Their suggestion to us, because of our unappropriated cash, was to quit financing stuff, quit beating around the bush, paying surcharges. Their recommendation to the city of Winter is to buy it from your unappropriated cash, if you have it and you need it. Quit messing around with financing when you have the funds, he said, get it done. It's in the best interest of the taxpayers. So that will be part of any discussion we have. I'm done asking questions.
No, that's good.
But I'm guessing, Mark, what will happen, it's got to be an actionable item when it goes to council, but they can table and bring it back to committee for more information at that point. This is fast and furious. I think they're going to want to think, visit with you, probably take a look at the old piece of equipment. I'm not telling you what they're gonna do, but I'm just telling you, don't be disappointed if you, we'll move it to the meeting on Monday for a discussion and an action, and then they can do what they want with it, okay?
And we'll have the figures on cash on hand from.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
We got all the background information.
I actually have those in my office. I'll take a look at those today and make sure that I have those. I don't know that Chandra will be here on Monday. So I will get that information from her and make sure that we have them.
Moving on. Got, quite a few things to talk about in streets. It was requested by the ordinance committee, I believe,
Yes.
that we look at, our streets and our signage that we have in them.
Two things.
You go ahead. I was asked to make up the map. I did that.
We started a conversation about a year ago where instead of every street, anytime there was a need to be a sign placed or a yield sign placed, stop sign placed, the request, council wanted to give the authority to the public works director, public safety director, and pretty much the city attorney to set up a traffic flow plan for the city of Winter. And Troy has actually resourced our city engineer who's looked at other areas. They wanted a consistent traffic flow plan through the city of Winter that would be determined between the two by a public works director with the street supervisor, and for the enforcement side with the public safety director. We have a plan. Troy has met with Jacob and from DGR and looked at other cities. We kind of knew what we wanted anyhow, and Jacob pretty much confirmed it. There are collection streets or primary streets that have been set up along with secondary avenues. Troy has drawn a map, and the second thing ordinance wanted is per South Dakota Code of Law. You can hang that up. I don't know that we got tape that'll hold it. The other thing, South Dakota Code of Law I don't know how we do that, but
Yes, I can hold on to it. Not bothering me.
You could probably just let it sit down, put your
Need some tape.
yeah, I don't know that we have any. But the other thing that ordinance wants individual or the city to consider,
I got it, Troy.
Troy, if you'd like to come out to the front and point out.
Well,
the
basically
collection streets.
what we talked about, and this is absolutely ground zero, starting with this plan. This is the first map that was generated based off my conversations with our engineers. But so everything in black would be a primary or a main collection street. We got the Highway 18 and portion of Highway 44 on there. And then you've got Main Street, and you've got Lamro, and you've got in Washington, because Washington is the emergency route to the hospital. So that's highlighted in yellow. Anything that's highlighted in yellow is our actual emergency route. And then you've got 7th Street. So, and so any street that intersects a primary number 1 would stop. They will stop to that. And anywhere that 2 primary streets intersect, there'll be a 4-way stop. So Then your primary two streets would be the ones in blue, and those would be the next highest traffic flow streets that we have. And any streets that intersect those streets would yield to those. And then they obviously would stop to a primary street. The pink is the school zones. So we're not gonna touch the school zones. We'll leave the school zones as they are with the appropriate signage and everything. The other thing that ordinance committee said they would like to do is they'd like to, so I don't know when this happened, years and years ago. Winter decided to change their street speed limit signs to 20 mile an hour. So if it's not posted, South Dakota state law says that if it's not posted, it's assumed it's 25. So that's just state law. If you don't have it posted, it's 25 mile an hour. When you change from that 25 mile an hour and you do change it to 20 or 15 or whatever you want, then you have to post that on all your streets. We don't have near enough signs in town to constitute changing our city streets to 25 mile or to 20 miles an hour from 25. So if we were to keep that 20 mile an hour, we have to put up a lot more 20 mile an hour signs.
Will that be every block? You'd have to have one there?
I think you do.
Yeah. People turning on that block? Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So we were gonna do away, I think that's what an
Yes.
ordinance wanted to do.
Ordinance wants to take the off-street speed limits to 25 mile an hour.
Per-
Consistent with South Dakota Code of Law.
To correspond with the law.
Except school zones.
The school zones we will mark, and that will be 15 mile an hour when children are present.
Yeah.
But when it's present, when children are present, that could mean baseball games,
Could be the
Swimming
city
pool.
Correct.
park.
So the school zone does, in both cases, it's in pink. So it does include the streets that have the parks or playgrounds, pool. It does include those. We wouldn't change anything. Any of the signage around the schools will stay the same. We're not gonna change any of that. That's all set up properly with the state law and everything.
What about all the yield signs? What do we do with them?
So this is where, it gets, I asked that question because every year, there is a lot of questions. People call up the city and they want to add a stop sign or a yield sign. They're going by my house too fast. Can you throw a yield sign on this intersection? The kids are coming from the school, they're speeding down the street, we need a stop sign down here to slow them down. DGR recommended against it. What they usually tell people is less is better. You don't put a yield sign up, you don't put a stop sign up. You do what this map tells us to do. So once again, all the block streets, everything will stop to those streets. So there will be a stop sign on the streets that intersect those streets. And then the blue streets, there'll be yield signs on the blue streets. So any streets that intersect the blue streets, there'll be a yield sign there. But that's it. You cut out the rest of the signs.
I guess we're gonna have to go back to two cars arrive at an intersection at the same time, the one to the right has right of way.
Follow
Which
the
is
law,
state
the
law.
rule, yeah, follow the state law is what you need to do.
That's what it is, yeah.
But the thing to remember is the thing that's confusing, you drive one block and you'll run into that where there is a yield sign. You go another block and it's not there. I mean, we've got a ton of yield signs in this town that were thrown up to try and slow traffic or for whatever reason they were put up, but there's no
Consistency.
purpose for it. I mean, there's no plan for it.
On the other side of this equation, I've talked with the public safety director. It comes down to enforcement. And the Winter Police Department, through this year, has really polished the enforcement of speed limits, especially in a construction zone, now in school zones. it comes down to enforcement. If we have a problem, we will utilize the police department to enforce traffic.
So much for that plan.
Who put tape on that side?
Yeah, so,
Yeah, it's a lot to swallow.
sounds like a better consistent approach to what we
Well,
have.
it's consistent, plus
Consistent.
it's planned out, it's not
It's
just.
planned
like
out, reasonable, it's an approach that's well meted out, thought about. It's gotta be better than what we have now.
It's less traffic signs to get knocked over in the winter.
Yes.
It's a common sense plan to traffic flow.
And this was the recommendation of our engineer also?
Yes.
Okay.
And this will go to an ordinance tomorrow.
Okay.
Like I said, this is just me with some markers and
Yep.
getting it ready for the first couple of go-rounds with the meetings to be,
You're always ahead, when you have a plan on these things, you're always ahead of the curve, and that's what I like. Plan this thing out, be ahead of things. Looks like a good approach to me.
yeah, it's, when you look at it from an engineering standpoint, it's a different, it's totally different than looking at it from a safety standpoint. But if you think about when I got to, told DGR what we were gonna do, and Jacob had already kind of drawn up a little, just with his little bit of knowledge, that he has of winter, but he's, it changed a little bit when I told him the different dynamics of different areas in town, but it does make a lot of sense. Your collector streets are your streets that pull all your traffic, and you kind of want to try and, that's where you want to
Keep 'em
route
moving.
your traffic is to
Yep.
those collector streets, and then your secondary, your secondary streets, the blue ones, those are streets where people are either using those to get to the downtown area, or they're using those to get home. Or they're using those to get into a residential area other than the primary streets. And then
School zones.
that's it. I mean, that's what they recommend, just, putting your signage on those streets, because that's taking the bulk of your traffic. When you get in the residential areas, and we have both. We have residentials that have a ton of signs in them, and we have residential areas that have hardly any signs in them.
I like it.
Councilman Hockett, recommend?
Yep. Good idea. Moving forward, I think it'll help things.
We'll send it to ordinance tomorrow, and then Mr. Jensen's pretty much got the language for the new ordinance drawn up. It just, the councilmen that are on ordinance want to see this map. That was their primary concern. And then they wanted streets to look at this also. So. The other recommendation on the 25-mile-an-hour speed limits, consistent with South Dakota Code of Law. Is that your recommendation?
I do. I mean, I don't think legally can we enforce a 20 mile without putting a sign up every block.
Cannot.
That's my understanding.
Only
too.
the streets that are marked, which are here, few and far between, are enforceable.
Yeah, I want 25 should be.
Now, Police Department and Public Safety Commissioner have said that when we go to 25, we're gonna have to re-educate people, and there will be zero tolerance, no warnings. 25 is 25. I just told them I thought 21 was against the ordinance right now, so why is there tolerance? Anyhow, we're all on the same page with this going forward, and if we need to, they can move patrols to certain areas to deal with issues. best way to deal with it is with one-on-one conversations, and if need be, fines to reduce speed in the city of Winter. I hope you all had a chance to listen to the chief of police report last, what was that, Wednesday? He had some incredible numbers on what traffic flow is doing in the city of Winter, and it's coming back to manageable. Okay, Troy, what else you got? You just keep,
I wanted to just more for public information. We closed off the alleyway by the Zip Trip, the one that leads on to the Zip Trip's property. And there's been a lot of call-ins, there's been a lot of people that have called in, and probably more so, there's been a couple of individuals that have expressed the disliking of us closing that alleyway off. There's been quite a few people that have expressed that they really appreciate or like that we closed that alleyway off. The reason that we did temporarily close it was because of the high amount of traffic flow that alley was taking because of the construction project. So people were using that alleyway to sneak up and get on 3rd Street, and 3rd Street's just super busy with this, until they get all these side streets opened up here, and I think that might happen this week. So, 3rd Street's just been and then you got the parents dropping kids off in front of the elementary school, and then they're scooting down 3rd Street, and so it was brought to my attention a couple of different times. There was a couple of close calls there with people pulling out of that, coming out of that alleyway entrance and not stopping, and then people coming from the west to get to work. And so we just decided it's not a street. It's a utility easement, and it's a utility right away, but it's not a street. And the high traffic flow coming out of that alleyway was kind of a safety thing, and then there was too many people trying to get through there with oversized vehicles, pulling trailers and things like that. So we just decided to close it down until this project's over. In doing so, there was a couple people that it really irritated them that we closed that down, but I got to do some research on that, because it comes off of 3rd Street, but then that alleyway, you can take a left and you can go west, and it comes out on East Park Street. So it's technically still an alleyway, a through alleyway. And it's brought up a lot of conversation about how that used to be set up. There used to be a cable across there at one time, and it was being shut down. I don't know who did the shutting down, if it was the city that did the shutting down, or if it was the property owners that didn't want people coming through there. One issue we have with it is every time it rains, our gravel and alleyway material washes down onto their parking lot, and they like to have that cleaned up like ASAP. They don't like having our gravel down on their parking lot. I've had a couple conversations with Sean over at Zip Trip, and the management at Zip Trip. They would rather see it closed. They're not drawing a hard line in the sand. Yes, we want it closed. They're just saying that they would appreciate it if it wasn't open. It interferes with their car wash line when they get busy in the summer, and then the debris that washes down onto their parking lot. That they don't like that. So I did a little digging into this, and there was never any paperwork that was generated when this project was done. So when it was given permission, I guess way back in the day, that used to be a church on that lot, way I understand it.
Lutheran Church.
Used to be a Lutheran church there. When that piece of property was sold, and a truck stop or gas station was put in there, there was never any paperwork, or there was never any filings or anything that got done for the city of Winter. So we have the same case in a couple of different places in town, and we've took care of those, so I think we need to take care of this one also. But we now have it is technically still a utility right-of-way. We do have a sewer that goes underneath there, starts on 3rd Street, and it goes down to the highway. And there's services connected to that sewer. They concreted over over our sewer. So I think that needs to be addressed, and we need to either change the wordage, but we need to get something in writing from the current property owners that protects us as a city. If we ever have to dig that sewer up or do anything with that, that we're not responsible to replace that surfacing over top of it. Because it technically is still a,
Alleyway.
yeah, it's
It's a
a
utility easement.
alleyway. I hate the word alleyway.
I do too.
I
It's a
like utility
easement.
right of way.
Right.
That's what it is. I mean, and that people have to remember, that's why we have alleyways in this town, is so that we can get in and we have access to our sewers and our electrical. That's the reason for those. But this was brought up in 2019 when Mr. Brown was still here with the Code Enforcement Office, and it got to committee meetings, I believe, and that's as far as it got. So I'm talking to DGR, seeing what they recommend, and bring it up tomorrow in ordinance. That's another subject for ordinance, and see where they want to go with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you
There's
guys.
no paperwork anywhere where they concreted over our
Not that I
right away, coming out of the highway. Gee
No.
whiz, wow.
So right here,
It's kind of blue.
these two lots are zip trip.
Mm-hmm.
It shows the utility access easement right through the middle of those two lots, and it's been concreted over.
Yep.
We're talking about closing this and taking it to the west, but we want language that protects us because this is covered.
Something similar to the St. Mary's Hall,
Correct.
when they put that in.
Yeah, when they put the concrete over the top of that alleyway.
Yeah, I mean, we've already taken measures. We've already relined that sewer
Everybody just got to see my butt.
to make the least, to make it the best case scenario so that we don't have to go in there and do anything with that sewer. But there is the zip trip services in there, and then I think there's another service that cuts down across and is in that sewer. I think it's that house right there on Taft Street, the first one to the south of, I think that one cuts down across there, and it might be under the concrete. But, yeah, we've done what we can do to make sure that we will never have to dig that up. But I still think the city needs to, they need to get something in, get something in writing that if we had to do something with our sewer there, that we're not replacing, $30,000-$40,000 worth of concrete.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then maybe talk about, it is a different scenario there. I'm trying to think of another place in town where people are using the alleyway to get to a business, and I'm having a hard time coming up with one. So that's the difference here with this one versus other alleyways in town. Pretty much all the other alleyways in town are residentials, and then the only traffic you have going through those alleyways are just the people that live adjacent to them. And this one is, it's used by people quite a bit to get to the zip trip or to exit or enter into the zip trip property, so
You're using
it's
it
a little
as
different.
street.
Yeah,
It's not a street,
no.
but it's, the people that
That live
it
there.
affects to it are happy that it's quieter now and are not using it as a street. They're actually having to use the streets to go to the business.
Well, and the apron too is shot, isn't it, coming
No.
onto Third Street?
The apron is shot on that
Yeah.
alleyway entrance, yes. We gotta replace it. So, that'll go to ordinance tomorrow with the recommendation of the lawyer and the paperwork and all that kind of stuff, and seeing what,
I'm gonna ask Streets Committee, is it your recommendation to close that down and get a utility easement agreement?
Yes.
Yep.
Makes sense, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
there is plenty of room in the alleyway to get our utility vehicles in and out. So if the light guys had to get in there with say their pole truck or their digger truck, which is their biggest vehicle, our Vector will fit in. We can make the turn, and we can go from going north to going west, or going east and then going south. We can make that turn there with that closed off. So as far as having to get our utility vehicles, in and out of that alleyway. We still have plenty of room to maneuver that alley the way it is with a 3rd Street entrance and a East Park Street entrance, so.
And the property owners are thankful it's closed, or wanting it closed, right?
Some.
Some.
There's a
Some are
few
not.
people
The
that,
ones that it affects,
Yeah.
that little block.
yeah, we have some residents that do not want to see it closed. They like to be
They
able
live
to,
down
they
the
like to
street.
be able to
Zip
use.
right
Okay,
down there, use it.
but they don't live on
They
that.
just like to be able to, you know,
Okay.
it's a
don't
quick
have
way
to
to get
fix
down to the highway or whatever.
Plus, when our old garbage trucks, they used to go around that when they picked up the alley, and if they can get around it, there's plenty of room.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
Our finance officer told me last week that so there was we put in for that our grant money, FEMA money, when we
Yes.
had for the snow events. And for whatever reason, the light department got theirs right away. That was like 9,000 and some change, for their hours and their, work that they did on, you know, replacing a few poles and things like that. They are an enterprise department, so that money goes right back into their cash on hand. There was also some in there for water and sewer, and that went right back into his cash on hand. That money will be deposited this week. But there's the $37,000 that I'm requesting that it go back to streets. And basically, that's where it came from. And it was for fuel. His maintainer broke down. We had to have the transmission fixed in that. That cost us almost $20,000. His fuel line is quite a bit over. And then we had man hours, and so a lot of it came out of his payroll and whatnot. That $37,000, it's $37,000 and then some change. I don't know what the exact number is. But what wasn't accounted for came out of streets. So I'm requesting that go back into streets.
Where's it going now? Where do they have it
It
going
goes
now?
back.
Right now, it would go back to
It's
the
just
general
like,
fund.
yes, it goes back to the general
Because
fund.
the streets is funded by the general fund, so
So you want your share of the pot?
we would like to see that
It
go
would
back
be
to the
what
streets.
he's requesting is a transfer from the general fund back to
Back to him, yeah.
the department's
For the
lines.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, our
most
there's
common
not-
sense.
The other departments got their,
The only one that will lose in this is the police department.
Actually, the police department didn't ask for any, that wasn't, the amount that was.
Submitted?
The amount that would have been submitted, they didn't think it was worth the time to do it, so they didn't.
so they didn't?
They didn't.
Oh, well, it comes back on them then.
They didn't
Yeah.
submit it, they didn't submit a
Even
number.
better, put the 37,000 in there to Troy, or to the streets.
Yeah,
They did not submit a number.
I hear a recommendation.
yes,
And a recommendation.
yes.
All right, we'll have that on the agenda
Fair and equitable.
at cabinet on Friday. Make sure we get it on the agenda. Along with the 2 ordinances, and we'll see what comes out of ordinance and policy on the alley. There's not gonna be a recommendation, I'll guarantee you that one's split, but we'll get it to full council to talk about that,
That?
the alleyway.
Oh,
Alleyway.
the alleyway?
It's
That
just
might
fair.
take a little time to get the language right on the utility easement that we need.
It's supposed to rain this,
Thursday, Friday.
they're talking Thursday, Friday, we could
Maybe
get
3
substantial
inches.
rain now, so.
We need it.
We'll see if
Yeah, what about cleanup week?
we'll see if it keeps that parking lot
Yeah.
clean.
That's right. Well, it did the last time it rained.
What about cleanup week if it would rain Thursday and Friday?
Cleanup week
going.
started an hour ago.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, if it gets postponed, are you gonna do it next week, or?
If it gets super wet, we won't be able to go out to the dump. We'll probably just have to, it's a good question, but we'll probably go around and see what is there. And if it's stuff that can be, if it's something that'll blow around, or, you know, the rain's gonna make a mess out of it, we'll probably pick it up and find a home for it. Like tree branches and things like that, we might leave those till the following week, till it dries up. If it gets really muddy out there, there's always the chance that we're getting stuck and having to pull vehicles out and things like that. So if we get the amount of rain that they're talking about, I would say it's probably gonna postpone our cleanup week into the, but driving around, there's not a lot of stuff out. We might be able to knock it out in the next couple of days. Last year, we really ripped through it. so.
Good.
And reminder to the public, if it's not, if they can't start putting stuff out on Thursday, can they? To be picked up?
Well, they should have it out by now.
Yeah.
They should have it out by now.
Yep.
but
Oh, yeah.
technically, they probably.
I got stuff out all over, I just gotta get it from
Yeah,
to curb.
you're fine. We'll work our way out to the outskirts of town.
Yeah, the questions I've had this week was, can they put it in the alleyways? Can they put it on the street side? We do both. We run the alleyways and the streets. So we'll find it.
Before we adjourn, this will also go on for a discussion item, actionable item on the Vector truck on next Monday.
With the attendant facts and figures, so we can make a
Correct.
well-informed decision.
I don't know that you can get Ben here. He doesn't like coming out here very much, but if you can get those figures from him, that would be updated. Make sure everything's accurate when you talk to council. I'm sure there's gonna be questions for you. How are the meters going? I understand you got another couple boxes in.
Yeah, we did. We've got, what was it, 377, almost 400 in. We're working at it.
Is it
Trying
safe?
to get our winterizing stuff done, and then in the spare time, we've been doing that, but we're gonna hit them really hard.
Is it safe to say our supplier's not gonna hit their deadline? I'll address that with them soon.
They have till
End of October, right?
15th or something like that.
So coming right up.
They did bring us 2 boxes. They did bring us like 45 of them right at the beginning of October, but
How many are we short?
If he says we have, what, 400?
Almost 400 in. And we've-
We need 1,800.
Oh, boy.
they still owe us like 1,200.
1/4 come
We're
through.
not running out.
But don't do no good to run 2 crews either, because he doesn't have enough radios anyway, so, right?
Right. As long as they stay ahead of us, we don't run out.
But we have an agreement with them.
Negotiate a little bit.
We will adjourn at this point. Mark, I'm gonna get these copies back to you so that you have these for Monday. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Can we go for a drive?
Unknown caller.
Your phone lights up all the time, Troy. Does your phone light up all the time like that? Seems like he's
Yesterday,
always trying to whack you.
yesterday from, well, yesterday was a kind of a colorful day. Yesterday I got my life threatened. What? What? Yeah,